That is how long it took me to get the double buffs on Mew. Hey, what's up everybody? Jukem here. Welcome back to more Pokken content over here. And this time I would like to talk about Mew, the Mew, this weird support Pokemon that many people like to use at like a beginner level because they're like, oh yeah, cool, RNG, I could get 2 different buffs. And I kind of just want to explain the specifics around Mew and why Mew isn't really the best support because there are, spoiler alert, better options, or it's just not worth it. I have here 2 characters who use it a lot though, by very notable players within the community, and I'm not here to say that they're doing bad things by picking Mew. I'm just here to explain Mew and why it might not be best on every character, or it still might not be the best on these 2 characters, but it's still useful on them. So either way, let's get started with this. So Mew uses Miraculous Power, which is, imagine Metronome when it comes to randomness, but it comes for buffs. It will randomly give an attack buff. It will randomly give a critical hit buff. Who knows? It could even give both at the same time, but it could also give nothing. On the bright side though, it does always give a small amount of synergy. 15 CC specifically, and for those curious on what CC is basically how we call how fast a character gets into their synergy burst by filling up their meter. Say Pikachu is the fastest in the game, tied with a few others. He has 100 CC, meanwhile characters who are super slow like Machamp and Gengar are 250 or can even be 400 in Mewtwo's case. This is why those 2 characters in particular adore Mew, because Mew can both give them some synergy so they can go into their decently good burst mode, or Mega Gengar is also busted, while also potentially getting very strong buffs that will help them do a lot of damage. For the specifics of how common these buffs are, they are 35% for an attack buff, 35% for a critical hit buff, 10% for no buffs, and 20% for both, which I feel like those last 2 should be swapped, or at least evened out to be 15%. I think the double buffs is a bit cringe, to say the least, because it could really just RNG fact. I really got the 10% first try. I'm so mad. This is part of the reason why it can be so toxic of it, because 1, some people are just luckier than others. I'm very unlucky. I've used the support many times. Okay, well there we go. But no, it can be pretty toxic when you are down in the game and then you suddenly just get, oh, some synergy. Oh, now I get into synergy burst mode. Now I have double buffs, and now you're getting hit by this. Oh, it ran out right in time, but no, potentially this could be terrible for a lot of people who are just playing against RNG factor, which is why it's a bit toxic and why I'm not a big fan of it. It's kind of a similar reason to why a lot of people think Croagunk is pretty funny, but in top level play, my mindset's like, oh, I don't like dealing with Croagunk because he just fishes for the boulders or whatever for lots of chip damage and other stuff. This is kind of a similar, except for you're just fishing for a buff to help you out. And it's not as, funnily enough, consistent as Croagunk when he's low on HP. That's how his mechanics work. His RNG gets better when he's at low HP, but this is always the same no matter what. And as you saw, the buffs didn't really last too long. They last 8 seconds in total, so it's not the worst, but it's long enough to where you can make a pretty big comeback in that short amount of time, especially with cutscenes happening and just winning phases over and over again. You get to keep the buffs a lot longer than it seems. As you can see right here, it's still going. It's not even blinking away until just now that I mentioned it, because of course it does. So you know Mew is a bit funny because of all that, right? There are other options in this game that do the same thing, but guaranteed. Maybe not the attack and the critical hit always buff at the same time, but there are definitely Pokemon who just do that normally, like Eevee right here. It does an attack buff and healing. Not synergy, but it does healing. Victini over here does a lot, actually, because it has an attack hitbox right behind you if the opponent were to jump over, which is really a thing that actually happens, but it's worth noting. It has critical hits that gives you all the time. It gives you some HP, and it also gives you some synergy. The downside to it is that it is slow, while Eevee is average. Mew is... Alright, Cass, can get back up there. You need to be my support Pokemon. Mew is a fast support, so that is another reason why people do like running it, especially on Gengar and Machamp. They can do the synergy buff at the very minimum over and over and over again pretty quickly. It takes 20 seconds to charge it up the first time, or 30 seconds to charge it up every time afterward. Pokken has its own supports for gaining synergy really quick, like Jirachi, other attack boosting supports like Mismagius, who have different effects besides just giving an attack buff. Mew just has a very weird feel to it when you have to rely on RNG the entire time just to hope that you can get something very good out of it that other supports could give you either way, and then some for other effects. Like Mismagius will attack the opponent while being super slow so you can approach. Victini has the hitbox. It'll also heal and give synergy. In fact, Victini actually gives the same amount of synergy as Mew normally does. Maybe not as quickly, but the other buffs definitely make up for it, especially when all of these last a lot longer than 8 seconds, except for maybe Mismag. Yeah, Mismag uses only 8 seconds, which is still fine because you still can use that time to just approach, and it's a lot different than, say, RNG factor, please give me something. You could get that 10%, just get 15 synergy, and then still lose the round because you didn't get your attack buff, when you could have potentially just used Eevee for an attack buff and won the round based on that, plus the HP that Eevee gives you might be useful for giving you enough HP to take another hit and still maybe clutch out the round. I'm not a Machamp main, I am not a Gengar main, I am a main of Sceptile, and I do know for sure I most likely would probably not use this type of support because, well, one, I just don't like the RNG factor. I showed you sometimes before that, like, I got the 10% chance a few times, including off-screen, that I will not show because I'm embarrassed. But also, Sceptile just has defense downs, and a lot of other characters have different ways of getting themselves attack buffs or defense downs on the opponent, or just ways to deal more damage in general. Like, I don't think Aegislash is going to be willingly using Mew because he obviously gives himself an attack buff all the time. I don't think that Sceptile here is going to be fishing for Mew because he can give a defense down on someone. Lots of other characters can give themselves attack buffs or at least defense buffs so that they can hang in there a bit longer so that they can do more of their shenanigans like Libre. While it might seem like such a good support you can do, and I'm going to mention a friend of mine real quick who plays Mewtwo, Mutator, top Mewtwo and Shadow Mewtwo player, he was really hoping that Mew and Mewtwo could be used in conjunction with one another, but these two are terrible with each other because, while I did mention Gengar and Machamp do love using Mew constantly to help them when they're at 250cc each, so they can constantly get up there, Mewtwo doesn't really play around getting Synergy Burst because his is 400. It's like so much that it isn't very noticeable. As you will see right here, it does nothing. And he's a character who uses Synergy for his attacks. Like, watch this Hyper Beam drain away that Synergy in the bottom left corner. Kind of see how it went down. Luckily, critical hits do help get synergy, which is another way that characters like Gengar and Machamp do gain a lot synergy a lot quicker. Not just from you giving them the synergy, but because a critical hit will always give a lot more synergy. Compare this grab to this grab. See the little synergy buff? It's not much, but that's also on 400cc, so imagine that on Machamp or Gengar. In fact, I'll just show you with Gengar in particular because this character is so stupid when it comes to gaining synergy. So you're a Gengar player, right? You want to get into Mega Gengar because it's the most busted burst mode in this game. Correct? Correct. We're on the same page here. Alright, so you have a grab. It steals synergy from the opponent, right? It had no synergy to steal there. So imagine Mew. You got Mew, right? You got Mew. All critical hits buff. Okay, that's very fitting now. Can I also just say that Mega Gengar also lasts the longest in this game for burst modes? So you can really see how much they really want to fish for this mode in particular, because Gengar's normal moveset isn't really the best. Alright, I got an attack buff that time, but we still got the crit always thing on, so look at all the synergy you're gonna get. Look at all the synergy you're gonna get. You're gonna steal so much of it. This is 250cc. Imagine this on other characters. But the funny thing is, those other characters could just win Field Phase once or twice and still get a normal pace for getting into their burst mode. Gengar kind of thrives for getting off of this just so he gets it pretty quickly. But also at the same time, I don't know this character, so I can't really say, but using the RNG factor is just a bit lame, and I'm not a big fan of it, and there's just much better options overall. That's the big thing. There's just a lot of better options over here. Mimikyu even gives an attack buff. It doesn't show it right there in the status effect, but it does if you hit the counter armor, and it lasts 14 seconds, I think. 12 or 14 seconds. That lasts such a long time. You can just do that easily on a projectile. Other supports give HP. I've mentioned this before. Give HP. Also synergy. Different status effect, but a lot of synergy. Attack buff while also giving an attack hitbox out there in the field to defend yourself with. There's a lot of different options here, and there's just... do you really want to risk losing a game because of it? Like, I guess the thing is, with Gengar and Machamp, which I'm just starting to realize it, is they don't care as much as other characters for wasting the support Pokemon if they were to get no buffs. That's the word. They don't care if they don't get any buffs because they just want to get the synergy, and the attack buff or critical hit buff is just an added bonus that, well, it's an added bonus that does a lot in the long run, especially in Machamp's case when he grabs you once, a whole one time, he's going to be doing 1,000,000 damage. Like, I'm going to show something that isn't even an uncommon thing. It is approximately a 20% chance that could possibly happen while you're playing this character. You just say, do this. Wait, do this. You gotta get a double buff. No, 20% chance. There we go. and then you grab them once, and then they perish. Look how much damage it does. 240. That's why they want to fish for it, because it doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want. I totally see why they're like this. Because big boy damage is always good, while still maintaining advantage, especially Submission, who has, by the way, 0 PSV, so you're still stuck in the corner, you gotta deal with this. I completely understand it. I just don't think it works for every character, and I still think it's a bit lame, and I still think these characters might have better options. They might. Like I said, it's like third or fourth time to say this. I don't know Machamp or Gengar, but they might have better options either way. Well, I think that's the entirety of Mew, though. It's a very simple support. It's a very simple support. I just wanted to rant on about it a bit because I feel like a lot of people might think the support might be for them, and I guess it's for you to decide. If you care about the synergy, there's still better options. If you care about the attack buff, there's still better options. I think Machamp and Gengar just hit this sweet spot where they are both 250, so they would like it, but they also have the tools to do ridiculous damage, even without it, or play grimy. In Gengar's case, specifically just Mega Gengar. Machamp is just Grappler, so you know he doesn't mind it. I just think overall, there are better options. There are better ways to play with different supports that can help you clutch the round guaranteed compared to hoping that you can get it off of using Mew and its miraculous power, which is just RNG power. Gotta love RNG power. If you complain about rock, paper, scissors in this game, and you use Mew, you are part of the problem. Me gaslighting my entire community into not using Mew. This is what I made a YouTube channel for, so everyone can use the same meta as I, so then I can counterpick meta and win every tournament. And that is all I'll really talk about for Mew. This is a pretty simple support, so maybe not the most in-depth thing. It's mostly just been ranting out about the RNG and how it doesn't really work for most characters besides Machamp and Gengar. But hey, you might be able to prove me wrong by picking the support and doing super well by getting very lucky with it. Or you could try out different supports. I think it'd be worth out trying different supports for them. Either way, even if a lot of top players of these characters do like using Mew a lot, there probably still is a better option in my honest opinion, and I think a few other top players do agree with that. But like I said, top players, or at least high level players, still use that support on these characters. So, and if you would like to see more discussions about Pokken and more content about Pokken, you can do the like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Yeah, subscribe on the video, subscribe on the channel, and maybe I'll see you guys here for more rants about my favorite fighting game ever. See you guys next time.